I have a confession to make. 10 years back, and with 30 years of being in medical field, I had no idea about this. I am Air Commodore Dr. Sanjay Sharma. The Air Commodore tells you that I have done my service, and I did well. And I took voluntary retirement because I did not know this. And I needed to educate myself. And how I did that was to go to the experts, and that is the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. I educated myself, took those courses. I am now a WPATH Global Education Institute certified faculty member and also a mentor. I have sat on that board too. And above all, I'm also a member of Swikar. This is a very interesting group. This is a group of parents who have queer children. The topic that is given to me is queer clinic. Clinic, we all very well understand, is a interface where the care providers meet the care seekers. So clinic, we really do not have an issue, but it is this term queer which needs a little bit of clarification. Because queer is an umbrella term and it covers everybody who we think does not fit into the normatives of society. Maybe from the way he looks, from the way he behaves, maybe it's identity, maybe it's sexuality. They all come under this term of queer, and queer started as a derogatory term. But as we step into the 21st century and we have finished the first quarter, and we are now understanding that diversity is the norm and not an exception, that diversity in human beings is not a disease. And this rights movement in healthcare delivery has prompted people to reclaim this word queer. But then when we are in the healthcare facilities, we really don't use the word queer. The term that we are going to use is transgender and gender diverse persons. That person is very important, because using the word transgender objectifies. Using the word gender diverse alone objectifies. So hence, in the medical field, we are learning a new language, and this language prompts us to say transgender and gender diverse persons, people, children, or anybody. So, with the permission of the chair and the gathering here, let's say the topic is Gender Affirmative Care Clinic. I hope we are all okay with that. Now that the topic thing is cleared, we also need to say, why are we talking about gender affirmative care? What has prompted us to do this? Well, for one, in 2016, the United Nations set out the Sustainable Developmental Goals, which are to be achieved by 2030. And goal number 3 goes on to say a very important thing. It says, healthy lives and well-being for all at all ages. Very well thought out, because 2018, the World Health Organization, looking at the evidence that was mounting, validated that gender diversity of sexual orientation is not a pathology, and hence struck out gender identity disorders and coined a new term which said gender incongruence. Again, a term which we all need to learn, because gender incongruence is not a disease. It validates diversity of human form. And ICD-11 has shifted identity disorders out from the medical books, introduced gender incongruence into issues related to reproductive and sexual health. Mind you, not in mental health, but in sexual health, because that is where they belong. And this is a form which is part of normal human beings, a normal subset of human beings who were ostracized. I'm very proud to be an Indian, because India was way ahead of the world. And in 2014, we had this beautiful judgment which was put out by the Supreme Court of India. It's called the Nalsa judgment. And it said gender is something which will be self-affirmed. And this is a right of every citizen of this country. Nalsa judgment told the questioners, the naysayers, that please, get your act together. Told the government, look, make provisions. This thing was debated in society and addressed that very simple question, that is society ready for this care? Well, to our surprise, the Indian society was ready for this care much before the Western society, because this topic was debated in Parliament, and we came out with an act, the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act, in 2019. During that age when people were battling with COVID and going through a phase which was pulling everybody down, our brains were thinking of how to make our society progressive. Isn't that beautiful? But I want you to look at this paragraph, the paragraph 15 of this act, which talks about what needs to be done in the healthcare environment. And there were instructions given that please make a change in the curriculum. Get everybody who's in healthcare to understand diversity, to get trainings. And it went beyond, and it said that not only the healthcare providers, but also the educators need to go and get themselves educated. And this has become a law. So dear friends, gender affirmative care is mandated by the law of the land, and if we have not so far understood this, then our certifications are at threat. I don't mean to scare you, because we are a very progressive fellowship. And I stand among pediatricians who are, I think, dealing with the best human form, children. So let us understand what is this gender affirmative care. This is a definition given by the World Health Organization, which goes on to say that it could be a combination of a single or a combination of interventions. Mind you, interventions, not treatments. Interventions which are designed to support and affirm an individual's gender identity. Let me highlight, the centerpiece is gender identity. So what are the essential components of this care? And this we need to know, because gender knowledge needs to be based on what is the current evidence. Where is this evidence? The evidence has been given by the World Professional Association for Transgender Health in their Standards of Care version 8, which was put out in September 2022, yes, as late as 2022. So if you are reading anything before 2022, please shelf it. It is based on lived experience, not our experience, because 30 years, which I said right in the beginning, where I was giving care, I never saw a person who was diverse who walked into my chamber looking this thing. So it is not my experience. It is the experience, the lived experience of people who were marginalized and excluded. I need to look at the curriculum, not the curriculum of the 80s when I started reading, but what is the current curriculum? And I need to look at research. I need to understand gender identity, sexual orientation, expression. And most importantly, I need to understand what is this dysphoria which arises when my narrative is not believed. What is the causation? What are the manifestations? And can I prevent this? Yes. Gender dysphoria is a preventable condition, and hence gender dysphoria finds its place in the mental health textbooks. Not gender incongruence. Gender incongruence will now appear in our physiology textbooks. We need to understand diversity of human form, including diversity of anatomy, diversity of differences in sex development, which are colloquially known as intersex conditions, diversity of perception. Our understanding of so many mental health so-called disorders needs to change, because these are not disorders. Autism's spectrum disorder is gone, replaced by neurodiversity. We need to understand diversity of human behavior. We need to understand how behavior changes when you are the minority. What is minority stress? What is intersectionality? How does it become more difficult for me to be, firstly, from a segment which is in minority as far as identity and orientation is concerned? Then maybe I am in minority due to my economic position, my belief systems, the place where I come from, the kind of environment that I grew. All these intersect, and that is what is leading to our new understanding of how the environment affects people when we do not know. And when we sit in the business of delivering care, this is something that we need to work on. The principles are very simple. We need to deliver care, but it needs to be complete, holistic, womb to toe. All specialties, interdisciplinary, starting from pediatrics, which is the most beautiful specialty on earth, right down to the end-of-life specialties, the geriatrics, the palliative care, delivered with compassion. Care, not cure. Because this individual who's walking into your clinic, into that interface with care seekers and care providers, he is not diseased. He is looking for care. It needs to be affirmative. It needs to go with the narrative that is presented, and it needs the language that you and me, sitting on the other side as care providers, are going to speak. Because if you're going to speak in a way which is abusive, derogatory, discriminatory, then this person is going to walk away. And is going to support that statistics of 94.7%. Yes, you heard it right. 94.7% of gender diverse and gender transgender individuals who do not walk into healthcare facilities because of prejudice of healthcare providers. We should not create a barrier because we have made care so expensive. It needs to be affordable, otherwise we will not be doing what we are set out to do. It needs to be accessible, and hence it needs to be in the public health domain, and hence this topic should be there in all IAP conferences henceforth. It needs to be age appropriate. If you're talking to a group of pediatricians, then we should know how we are going to monitor gender development. Is it enough for that professor to ask me, did you measure head circumference? Did you get the height? Right? I remember I said, height of this 1.5-year-old child is this. And he says, fail. Dear friend, length. When is that questioning going to come which prompts me to read that chapter in Nelson which talks about gender incongruence? Because you as a professor are going to ask it during my viva, so I better do my gender knowledge in. Care needs to be responsive to the needs of the person who is demanding this care. And this response has to be done with the understanding that consent is very important. Respect for autonomy is very important. And it has to be delivered by people who are trained. And hence, it is not enough for IAP to put out a 2-page, 3-page statement, but it needs to include this in curriculum development and get our brains together to speak about this. Most important principle is that this needs to be ethical, experiential, evidence-based. Who will give this care? So it has to be a gender affirmative care team, and that team has to be multidisciplinary. It has to cover primary, secondary, and tertiary care. Most importantly, this team needs to ensure that social integration happens, because we are talking about normal individuals, we are talking about normalization and inclusiveness in society. The strategy that we're going to use is multi-pronged, holistic, depathologize, care. Don't do gatekeeping. Create a one-stop center so that you mitigate and prevent dysphoria. Rebuild the trust so that person comes into your clinic for care. Ensure training and capacity building of care providers. We need guidelines, we need textbooks, we need a structured uniform training system, we need certification and regulation. We need to foster partnerships between associations, be it the Indian Academy of Pediatrics or the Plastic Surgery, Government of India, international organizations. We need strategies. I know you were waiting that when will this outline come out. So here it is. This is how gender affirmative care clinic looks like. And I'm not going to read over here because you can see so many components there. But this is the important part, because you want to make this friendly. So your displays of things that make people comfortable are there. And for that you need to educate yourself. Documentation which is required and essential for administrative, clinical and medical legal purposes need to be a two-step documentation. We need to first understand why it's so important for us to address the person by the name that they choose, by the pronouns that they desire. We need to display all this so that the individual is comfortable, he knows his rights, he knows that who will do the conflict resolution, the helplines, the support groups. Trust building will happen when there is visibility of queer people. Sorry, I just told you, we don't say queer, we say transgender and gender diverse people who are visible in your healthcare facilities. Transparency and certification. We need to assure that this is given with quality, and for that, this is no rocket science, this is what we need to do. Where does this gender affirmative care sit? And I will finish on time, sir. So the gender affirmative care clinic is the heart of care provision. It connects to the Center of Excellence that is already there in New Delhi. It connects to private players, to community-based players, and also to the outreach workers. And this diagram shows how the case management and training will flow. And yes, we will leverage technology. And my organization has done exactly that. We have leveraged technology by getting into a MOU with ECHO, and we are running these programs, telementoring mode, 23 cities covered, the entire country covered. I invite IAP to partner with us, accept diversity.
Thank you.
And
it's a
support
very illuminating talk. I'm sure most of us would have heard a new dimension about